Let me start with something uncomfortable. Most people believe life gets clearer with age. They think experience makes decisions easier. They think mistakes teach lessons automatically. I don't. I have watched people reach 40, 50, even 60 and still live by the same broken rules they followed at 20. Not because they are stupid, not because they are lazy, because their operating system never changed. And here is the brutal truth. Life does not punish you immediately for wrong rules. It lets you run them for years, sometimes decades, before the bill arrives. I call this the delayed consequence loop. It works like interest, but in reverse. Bad rules compound quietly. Wrong habits accumulate in the background. And by the time you see the result, the math is already locked in. Most people do not fail suddenly. They drift slowly, predictably, mathematically. And the worst part, the rules that destroy your life do not look dangerous when you are young. They look normal. They look reasonable. They look safe. That is why most people learn them too late. Over the years, I have seen the same pattern repeat again and again. Different people, different careers, different countries, same outcome. The ones who built strong lives followed a few brutal rules early. The ones who struggled ignored them until the damage was done. Today, I want to show you 5 of those rules. Not motivational advice, not hacks, not shortcuts. Rules. Rules that behave like physics. Break them, and the consequences are guaranteed. Follow them, and the odds quietly move in your favor. You may not like them. Most people don't. That is why most people learn them late. This is the first rule, and it starts with something almost nobody understands. The rule of elimination. We live in the most advanced time in human history. More choices, more opportunities, more paths than any generation before, and yet people feel more stuck than ever. Why? Because they believe success comes from adding more skills, more projects, more goals, more plans, more options. This belief sounds logical. It is also wrong. I learned this the hard way when I was younger. I thought progress meant doing more things, more reading, more ideas, more directions, more experiments. Every week I felt busy. Every month I felt tired. Every year I felt almost in the same place. Movement everywhere, progress nowhere. That is when I realized something that changed the way I think forever. Your life does not collapse because of bad choices. It collapses because of too many good ones. Good opportunities are the most dangerous force in the world because they do not look like enemies. They look like possibilities. I call this the expansion trap. The expansion trap works like this. You have a limited amount of time, a limited amount of focus, a limited amount of energy. Think of it like fuel. Every day you wake up with a full tank, and every decision burns a little of it. Now here is the math nobody tells you. If you spread your fuel across 10 directions, you move in all 10 very slowly. If you burn it in one direction, you move fast enough to escape gravity. Life rewards speed in the right direction, not motion in every direction. This is why most people stay average. They refuse to eliminate. They want 10 goals, 10 plans, 10 identities, 10 futures. But the brain does not compound 10 things at once. It compounds one thing. I remember sitting with a friend years ago, smart guy, hardworking, ambitious. He told me all the things he wanted to do. Start a business, learn investing, get in shape, travel more, study psychology, build a YouTube channel, change careers. All good ideas, too many good ideas. I asked him a simple question. If you had to choose only 5, which ones stay? He laughed. He didn't want to choose. Nobody does. Because choosing means killing something. And the ego hates killing options. But here is the rule most people learn too late. Everything you keep costs you something else. Every extra goal steals focus. Every extra plan steals time. Every extra commitment steals energy. Opportunity cost is not theory, it is physics. If you put ones and thousands in one place, you cannot put the same 1,000 somewhere else. Life works the same way. Your attention is capital. Spend it everywhere, and nothing compounds. Focus it, and things start to accelerate. This is why elimination feels painful, because it forces you to accept limits. And the ego hates limits. The ego wants to believe you can do everything, be everything, have everything. Reality does not work like that. Reality rewards concentration. Think of a magnifying glass. Move it around in the sun, nothing happens. Hold it still and paper burns. Same sun, same light, different focus. Your life works the same way. Most people never burn through anything because they never hold the lens still. Here is your assignment for this rule. Tonight, write down everything you think you want. Everything. Career, money, health, skills, projects, dreams. Do not filter, write it all. Then circle 5, only 5. And here is the brutal part. Everything else becomes the avoid at all cost list. Not secondary, not later, not someday, enemies. Because every minute you give them is a minute stolen from what actually matters. This sounds extreme. It is supposed to. Average lives are built on comfortable decisions. Strong lives are built on ruthless ones. And most people don't learn that until the math is already against them. In the next rule, I'm going to show you something even harder. A rule that decides whether you live your life or perform it for other people. Most people never notice the difference. And that mistake costs them everything. Most people think they are making decisions. They aren't. They are performing. They call it ambition. I call it the audience trap. Here is the second brutal rule most people learn too late. Never build your life on an outer scorecard, because the outer scorecard never stops asking for more. More proof, more applause, more status, more look at me. And the moment you feed it, it owns you. I learned this in a way I still remember with full clarity. Years ago, I was surrounded by noise. Not literal noise. Social noise. Everyone had an opinion about what mattered. What success looked like. What was smart? What was the future? The world was intoxicated. You could feel it. People were making money fast and talking louder because of it. Every conversation became a scoreboard. If you weren't doing what the crowd was doing, you were behind. If you weren't buying what the crowd was buying, you were stupid. If you weren't posting what the crowd was posting, you were invisible. And that pressure does something dangerous. It turns your identity into a public product. You stop asking, is this right? You start asking, how will this look? This is the binary most people never confront. Inner scorecard versus outer scorecard, truth versus appearance. The outer scorecard is built from other people's opinions. The inner scorecard is built from your own standards. And I'm going to give you a test that reveals which one controls you. It's brutal. That's the point. Would you rather be excellent in reality and misunderstood publicly, or mediocre in reality and admired publicly? If your gut pulls you toward admiration, you already know. Most people don't want truth. They want permission. They want to be seen as disciplined, not actually be disciplined. They want to look strong, not become strong. They want the result without the identity. And here is the physics of it, T. When your self-worth is external, your mood becomes a market. A compliment is a bull market. A criticism is a crash. You become tradable. That is not a life. That is volatility. Now let me make this concrete. I remember a season where I did the boring thing. I stayed patient. I didn't chase what everyone was chasing. I didn't adopt opinions just to sound sharp at dinner. And I paid for that decision socially. People didn't say, you're disciplined. They said, you don't get it. They said, you're missing the moment. They said, everyone is making money except you. It's amazing how quickly the crowd becomes a judge, and the temptation is real, because the outer scorecard offers you a fast rewards, relief. If you join the crowd, the criticism stops. If you play their game, the laughter stops. If you copy their moves, you get applause. But the cost is invisible. You trade your inner clarity for outer peace. And that trade compounds against you. This is the name framework I want you to remember. The approval tax. Every time you make a decision to gain approval, you pay a tax, not in money, in integrity, in focus, in long-term direction. And like any tax, it reduces your net returns. Here is the math anchor. Think in opportunity cost. If you spend 2 hours a day maintaining an image, curating posts, chasing validation, consuming comparison, that is 14 hours a week. 14 hours. Over a year, that's 728 hours. That's 18 full-time work weeks. 18 weeks per year spent feeding an audience. Now tell me the truth. What could you build with 18 extra weeks of deep work? What could you learn? What could you fix? This is how the outer scorecard steals lives. Not with disasters, with drift. And it does it quietly, because everyone around you calls it normal. That's why this rule is brutal, because it forces you to accept a hard requirement. You must be willing to look wrong while you are being right. You must be willing to be misunderstood while you are building something real. You must be willing to lose applause to keep your direction. Most people can't do it. They would rather be socially safe than internally free. So here is the rhythm break. No applause, no problem. If you can't say that and mean it, the outer scorecard owns you. Now I'm going to show you what this looks like in daily life. The outer scorecard doesn't only show up in money. It shows up in relationships, in careers, in purchases, in the way you speak. People buy things they don't need to impress people they don't even like. People choose careers that sound good instead of lives that feel right. People stay quiet when they should speak and speak when they should stay quiet. All of it is the same disease, performance. And performance is exhausting because you can never rest. The audience is never satisfied. But if you build an inner scorecard, something rare happens. You become calm. Not because life is easy, because you are no longer tradable. You don't need the crowd to confirm your identity. You confirm it yourself. That is freedom. So here is your mini assignment. Before your next decision, any decision, pause. Ask one question. If nobody could ever know I did this, would I still do it? If the answer is no, don't do it. Because that means you are not acting. You are performing. And here is the open loop I want to leave hanging. Even if you eliminate distractions, even if you stop performing, you can still ruin your life with one mistake. Trying to have an opinion on everything. That is the third brutal rule most people learn too late. And it sounds simple. But it is the most profitable sentence you will ever say. There is a sentence most people hate saying. 3 words. I don't know. Those 3 words could save you years of damage. They could save you money. They could save you time. They could save your reputation. But the ego refuses to say them. That is why the third brutal rule exists. Stay inside your circle. Most people don't ruin their lives because they are incapable. They ruin their lives because they refuse to accept limits. I call this the competence boundary law. Everything in your life operates inside a boundary. Inside the boundary, you have clarity. Outside the boundary, you have noise. Inside, you move with precision. Outside, you guess. And guessing feels harmless until the consequences compound. We are trained from childhood to believe that intelligence means having answers. School rewards quick responses. Work rewards confidence. Social life rewards opinions. So we learn to speak even when we don't understand. We learn to act even when we are unsure. We learn to decide before we are ready. That habit follows people into adulthood, and it becomes expensive. I remember a period when everyone around me was excited about something new. New market, new technology, new opportunity. Every conversation sounded the same. You have to get in? You're missing it? This is the future. Only idiots don't see it. That pressure is powerful because it attacks identity. Nobody wants to look slow. Nobody wants to look outdated. Nobody wants to look like the only one who doesn't understand. So people step outside their circle, not because they studied it, not because they mastered it, because they don't want to feel left behind. That is how smart people make stupid decisions. This is the binary you must understand. Inside the circle to edge, outside the circle to exposure. The size of the circle does not matter. The definition does. Some people understand finance. Some understand engineering. Some understand people. Some understand small businesses. Some understand nothing deeply. And that is the real danger. Because when you understand nothing, everything looks possible. And when everything looks possible, you swing at everything. I use a simple mental model. Imagine life as a strike zone. Every opportunity is a pitch. Some are perfect. Some are close. Some are way outside. Most people swing at everything. They swing because they are excited. They swing because others are swinging. They swing because they are afraid to miss. But in life, there are no called strikes. You can let 10 opportunities pass. 100, 1,000. Nothing bad happens. The only thing that hurts you is swinging at the wrong one. This is where math comes in. Let's talk about expected value. If you take 10 actions you understand with 70% accuracy, your average result compounds. If you take 10 actions you understand with 20% accuracy, your losses compound faster than your wins. Skill multiplies outcomes. Guessing multiplies mistakes. Most people live in the 20% zone. Not because they are dumb, because they refuse to stay in their lane. I learned this lesson when I watched someone very capable destroy years of progress. He was excellent at what he did. Focused. Disciplined. Patient. Then he saw other people getting rich in something he didn't understand. He told himself, I'm smart. I can figure it out. He moved outside his circle. At first, nothing happened. Then he made money. Then he felt invincible. That is the dangerous phase. Early success outside your circle is not proof. It is luck. And luck creates overconfidence faster than failure. A few months later, one decision wiped out years of work. Not because he wasn't intelligent, because he ignored the boundary. That is the competence boundary law. You don't get punished for what you know. You get punished for what you pretend to know. Here is the rhythm break. Clarity beats confidence. Confidence outside your circle is arrogance. Confidence inside your circle is power. Now here is the part most people don't want to hear. Your circle is probably smaller than you think. And that's okay. The goal is not to know everything. The goal is to know a few things deeply enough that your decisions become predictable. One skill mastered beats 10 skills half learned. This is compounding again. Depth compounds. Breadth distracts. Think of cognitive bandwidth like money. You only have so much. If you invest it everywhere, returns stay small. If you concentrate it, returns accelerate. This is why specialization wins over time. Not because specialists are smarter, because they stay inside the zone where mistakes are rare. So here is your assignment for this rule. Take a blank page, draw a circle. Inside the circle, write the things you truly understand. Not things you like. Not things you follow online. Not things you talk about. Things you understand well enough to make decisions without guessing. Outside the circle, write everything else. New trends, opinions, opportunities, hype. Then make a rule. No big decisions outside the circle. Not with money. Not with time. Not with reputation. Stay inside long enough and compounding starts working for you. Ignore this rule and compounding works against you. Now here is the open loop. Even if you eliminate distractions, even if you ignore the crowd, even if you stay inside your circle, you can still lose everything in 5 minutes. Not because of skill, because of character. The fourth rule is the one most people only understand after the damage is done. And once it breaks, you cannot fully repair it. There is a mistake that does not look dangerous when you make it. It looks small. It looks harmless. Sometimes it even looks smart. But it carries a hidden multiplier. One bad decision can erase 10 years of discipline. Not because life is unfair, because reputation compounds, and so does its loss. This is the fourth brutal rule most people learn too late. Protect your reputation like it is your last asset. Not your money, not your job, not your status. Your reputation. I call this the reputation fragility law. It works differently from everything else in life. Wealth compounds slowly. Skill compounds slowly. Trust compounds slowly. But reputation can collapse instantly. And once it cracks, it never returns to its original strength. You can repair it. You can explain it. You can apologize. But the structure is never the same. Think of it like glass, strong when intact, useless when shattered. Most people don't understand this until they see it happen. I remember watching someone lose everything over one decision. Not a criminal, not a fool, just one moment where he told himself, "It's not a big deal." That sentence has destroyed more lives than failure ever did. It's not a big deal. Everyone does it. No one will notice. I'll fix it later. That is how the slope starts. Slow, comfortable, reasonable. Then the math changes. Because reputation does not follow linear rules. It follows exponential rules. You can build trust for 20 years. Lose it in 5 minutes. 20 years up, 5 minutes down. That ratio should scare you. Most people live as if the opposite were true. They act as if small shortcuts have small consequences. They don't. Because trust is a multiplier. When people trust you, everything gets easier. Deals move faster, opportunities appear, mistakes get forgiven, doors open. That is the trust premium. But when trust breaks, the reverse happens. Everything slows down, everything becomes expensive, everything requires proof. That is the friction tax. And the friction tax compounds. You spend more time explaining, more time fixing, more time recovering. Energy that should build your life gets spent defending it. Here is the binary. Trust to speed, doubt to drag. Most people don't notice the drag until they are already stuck. Let me give you the mental model I use. Before any decision, imagine this. Tomorrow morning, your action is on the front page of a newspaper. Not a small blog, not a private message. Front page. Your family reads it. Your friends read it. People you respect read it. How do you feel? Calm or tight in the chest? If there is tension, the answer is no. I call this the front page test. It cuts through rationalization. Because the brain is very good at justifying things in private. You can convince yourself anything is okay when nobody is watching. But the moment you imagine light on it, the truth appears. And here is where most people fail the great filter. Not when life is hard, when life is easy. This is the filter. You start making more money. You gain more freedom. You get more options. And suddenly, temptation increases. Shortcut deals, easy profits, questionable partnerships, small lies that make things smoother. The ego whispers, "You earned this. You deserve this. You can handle this. That is the moment, not the beginning of success, the test of it. Most people pass the poverty test. Few people pass the success test. Because when you have nothing, integrity is cheap. When you have everything, integrity is expensive. That is the reputation filter. And once you fail it, recovery is slow, sometimes impossible. Here is the math anchor. Imagine your reputation as a credit score. Every honest action adds 1 point. Every dishonest action subtracts 10. Now think long term. If you make one bad decision every few months, you never get ahead. Not because you lack talent, because the penalties are bigger than the rewards. That is why character matters more over time. Skill can create opportunity. Character decides how long you keep it. Here is the rhythm break. Fast gains, slow damage, permanent cost. If you remember that, you will avoid mistakes most people only understand after the fall. Now here is your assignment. Audit your life. Not your goals, your behavior. Is there anything you are doing right now that you would hide if everyone could see it? Anything you would not want explained out loud? Anything that makes you say, it's not a big deal. Fix it now, not later. Later is how cracks become breaks. Because once the structure fails, you don't go back to the beginning. You start again with less trust. And that is a heavy penalty. Now here is the open loop. Even if you eliminate distractions, even if you ignore the crowd, even if you stay inside your circle, even if you protect your reputation, you can still lose the game. Not because of one mistake, because you quit too early. The fifth rule is the one almost nobody follows long enough. And without it, none of the others matter. There is one rule that decides almost everything. Not intelligence, not talent, not luck. Time. Most people underestimate time when they are young and fear time when they are older. Both mistakes cost them. This is the fifth brutal rule most people learn too late. Play the long game or the math will defeat you. I call this the compounding curve law. Everything in life follows a curve, not a straight line. At the beginning, nothing seems to happen. Effort feels slow. Progress feels invisible. Results feel unfair. Then something changes. Not suddenly, not dramatically, mathematically. The curve bends. And once it bends, the same actions start producing bigger outcomes. Most people never reach that bend, not because the curve doesn't work, because they quit in the flat part. Think of compounding like a snowball rolling downhill. At the start, the snowball is small. You push it and nothing impressive happens. It moves slowly. It feels heavy. Sometimes it even falls apart. Most people stop there. They say, this isn't working. This is too slow. I need something faster. So they change direction. New plan, new goal, new strategy. And every time they change, the snowball goes back to zero. That is the hidden cost of impatience. Resetting the curve. I learned this when I noticed something strange. People who looked average at 25 looked unstoppable at 50. Not because they became geniuses, because they stayed consistent long enough for compounding to take over. And people who looked brilliant at 25 looked lost at 50. Not because they became stupid, because they kept restarting. This is the binary. Consistency vs. intensity. Intensity feels powerful. Consistency is powerful. Anyone can work hard for a week. Few people stay disciplined for 10 years. And the curve only rewards the second group. Here is the math most people ignore. If you improve 1% per day, after a year you are not 365% better. You are over 37 times better, not because of effort alone, because of compounding. Now reverse it. If you get 1% worse per day, the decline also compounds. That is the delayed consequence loop again. Bad habits don't destroy you immediately. They accumulate. Late nights, no reading, impulse spending, short-term thinking, constant distraction. Each one feels small. Together they change the curve. This is why time is the real multiplier, not money, not talent. Time applied to the right habits becomes unstoppable. Time applied to the wrong habits becomes irreversible. I remember a conversation with someone who felt stuck. He said, I've been working for years and nothing changed. So I asked him one question. What have you done every day for the last 5 years? Not what he planned. Not what he wanted. What he actually did. That answer explains almost every life. Your future is not built by big decisions. It is built by repeated ones. Daily actions are deposits. Daily mistakes are withdrawals. And the account compounds whether you like it or not. This is why the long game feels lonely. Because the rewards are delayed. You read every day, nobody notices. You save money, nobody notices. You stay disciplined, nobody notices. But years later, everyone notices the result. And they call it luck. It isn't luck, it's survival through the flat part of the curve. Here is the rhythm break. Boring wins. Not exciting, not dramatic. Boring. Reading when you don't feel like it. Saving when you want to spend. Holding when you want to quit. Waiting when others rush. That is how the curve bends. Now we reach the final lens. The one that puts all 5 rules into perspective. Most people live forward. Reacting, adjusting, chasing. Very few people live backward. They imagine the end and design from there. I call this the obituary test. Imagine the last day of your life. Not in a dramatic way. In a clear way. People are talking about you. Not your bank account. Not your job title. Not your followers. You. What do they say? Was he disciplined or distracted? Was she honest or convenient? Did he build something or just stay busy? Did she live by rules or by reactions? This is the only scoreboard that matters. And here is the brutal truth. You don't build that life at the end. You build it every day. With elimination, with inner standards, with boundaries, with integrity, with patience. 5 rules. Simple. Not easy. Most people hear them late. Some hear them early. Very few follow them long enough. If you understand them now, you have an advantage most people never get. Not because you are smarter, because you are aware. And awareness changes behavior. Before we finish, I want you to do one thing. Not tomorrow, now. Choose one rule, just one. Cut something unnecessary. Ignore one opinion. Say, I don't know. Fix one dishonest habit. Stay consistent one more day. Small actions start curves. Curves change lives. If this made you think, write in the comments, I play the long game. Not for me. For you. Because the moment you say it publicly, you make it harder to go back to drifting. Subscribe if you want more thinking like this. Thanks for watching.